Okay.
And you could go ahead and start sharing to Katie, and then I'm looking up for Chelsea's number to see if I can.
Okay. So mine is really pretty simple, probably a lot simpler than maybe your guys'. I'm a tech education major, so technology. This would be something I could use for the first day of class. This is what I would give to my students when they came in after I described whatever class it was going to be. I could do this for any class, could be woodworking, metal shop, whatever. But it's just something for them to do an activity and not be stressed out about the first day of class being, all these expectations. And so basically I would want them to build a structure. Anything like this is an example. There'll be 2 chairs about 2 feet apart, and they just have to take one piece of paper and change it into something that will rest between, basically like a bridge, but it doesn't have to support anything. It just has to stay there. So like this is a piece that I made, and I have a picture that would show you what that is. Can I go to another? Oh, there's another screen.
Yes. I think you just have to go down, and then it'll bring up like your different.
So that's a picture of just the 2 feet span with, I just cut a sheet into 3 equal lengths, like hot dog style, and taped them together real quick, just to show you an idea of what I'd be looking for students. They can do whatever they want though. And I have my, technology education methods teacher did this, and he said some of the things that students come up with is amazing. So this is my design brief, and I would just say that their objective is to build a structure from a single piece of paper using tape, glue, or paper clips to support itself. And the limitations would be that they can only use one piece of paper, but they could use as many pieces of paper as they need to build it. But in the end, they can only use one at a time, basically. So they can come get a new piece, but they have to throw their old one away, so they're not using more paper than everybody else. And so why they would want to do this, or why I would do this, it would stretch their limits of creative thinking and problem solving. The thing about technology classes is some students have never had any hands-on activity of any sort in school. Everything's knowledge-based. So it would be good for them to be able to stretch their limits a little bit, and for me to see how comfortable they are with designing something. And then, so the design loop and then the universal systems model are 2 things that are very important for the technology, and it would lead into that very well, where I could explain that, you guys went through a process of thinking about what you wanted to build, how you wanted to build it, and then you actually went through and built it, and then you built it, and then you tested it, and then they could go through and do it again if they didn't like their idea. So it would lead into very important parts of the technology program. And the thing that I'd want to make clear to them is that me as a teacher, or another teacher who is doing this, is supposed to be kind of in the background just watching. They're not supposed to really be there to help them do it the whole time. So they would be asked to, look around and see what other students are doing, and see if that can spark an idea, or they can collaborate with in groups. They can do it whatever they want. I just give them the task, and each one has to make their own project, but they can do whatever they want from the time, basically it'd probably take a half hour really, because I made that little structure in like 2 minutes, so it wouldn't be a real long activity, but the main thing was just have them work together and work through their own problems, which, student-centered, so it'd be all on them. And just wanted to have some fun on the first day of school and see what the technology class is going to be about, I guess. What else did you guys want to know about it or see? Is that enough? Or?
Yeah, that's enough. I was just going to ask, have you seen the one, and again, someone had shared it with me first, but it was like, I had like tire tubes, tire inner tubes,
okay,
and then some rope and 2 buckets, and one bucket had popcorn in it, and they had to figure out how to develop a contraption to dump the popcorn from one bucket into the other one, you know, and I just sat back and I didn't say anything, you know, but then they figured out if they could put the ropes on the inner tube and then stretch it, then they could, you know, catch on the bucket, but then they also realized that they had to twist it in certain ways to make it so that it would dump.
Other examples of something I could do with later in the semester or class or quarter would be more group based, where they'd be in small groups and then slowly work into larger groups. And one of them, Mr. Lang told us he did, was they had the wall board with all the holes in it, and you can put different contraptions in it, and they had to take marbles and it had to start somewhere and go through all the different loops, and it had to take at least 30 seconds but no more than 35 seconds to get to the end and then trigger something. So they had to all work together in groups and then slowly work up to one final design. So I think, you know, for the first day of class, it'd be good for the students to know or just get a really simple idea of a design process, and then towards, like, at the end, maybe even the last week, do a very large one to where they see how far they've come. I guess.
Like a Rube Goldberg or something like that. That would be would be fun.
Yeah.
So very cool.
So would this be like two people at a time, or how would you, or everybody individually?
They individually would have to make a project of their own, but they can decide how they want to, if they want to work in groups and, you know, make similar deals. But, you know, I wouldn't want them to all have the same structure, but they can basically do it on their own 100%, or they can work in groups. And it'd be hard to say how it's going to work without actually doing it. Maybe I would specify, okay, we're going to start in groups of 5 and come up with some ideas, and then you're going to branch out on your own and, you know, build this on your own. But it'd be hard to say until I've actually run it and seen how students react to how it works.
But it sounds like a good plan. And now that you said that, you know, like when I did the popcorn one with my students, I think I had a class of 5, so they had to work together. But then I did, I attended a workshop, which actually was kind of what the thing that introduced me to Zoom. It was a part of that, but we had team building activities one day, and it was kind of the same idea as that one that I mentioned, but it was using rubber bands and red Solo cups and I think strings. And then, but we were in groups of 4, and I think maybe groups of 4 are too much. I think 2 or 3 is better, because you don't want to, like, just because in a group of 4, there's always that one dominant person. And since I'd already done this stuff, I didn't, you know, I kind of knew what was going on, so I stood back. But still, it's like, it's easy to have one dominant person and then 3 people that just follow, you know, what the person says. But it's still, you know, it worked. But the thing that was nice about that one was she gave us a bunch of different, I think we had like 6 Solo cups, you know, the red Solo cups. And we had to make different designs, you know, and figure out how to twist them and such. So it was kind of fun. But anything like that that's team building is so good. And to do it, like you said, Trevor, the beginning of the school year that's much more important than starting it with, you know, day 1, lesson 1 in your book. It's more important to get the team stuff going.
The other part the only standards I know for a lesson like this are out of the standards for technological literacy. So I don't know, a lot of them would work, but the main ones I said this would be standard 11, apply the design process, and standard 13, assess the impact of a product and system. That's all I put in for standards on my lesson plan. I was curious, where do you find all the other standards for the other subjects? Like, I was looking at other people's projects and lesson plans. You have all those standards. Where are those from? Or where do you usually get them? I guess I'm not.
Katie, you want to answer? And then I'll be
Well,
right back.
I know you can get a lot of them just through the Common Core website. I mean,
Just
being
Common
math,
Core,
that's where I
okay.
get a lot. And being in some literacy classes, I've been doing a lot with the language arts also.
Okay.
So that, I'm trying to remember where else, because I know in a couple classes, I mean, I've basically been doing math and language arts, and that's
Yeah.
Common Core, so that's what I've been working with. But
Okay.
yeah, I'm trying to remember where else. I'd have to look. But
You
they're
go ahead.
actually not bad. It'd be pretty easy to put some of the standards, like the math ones, or like physics, you could put with this as well.
Yeah, there's a lot. I'm sure there was more. I looked, like I typed in on BH's website, educational standards, and I found a few different sites, but didn't really have any specific standards, I guess. So I just did the ones I was familiar with for
That's
now.
good. So the one place I would, the easiest way, if I tried to tell you the URL, I'd probably mess it up. But if you just Googled South Dakota Department of Education and then content standards, you would find it. They should have your technology standards, but if they're
And I think, as far as I could figure out from Mr. Lang for the tech methods, I think those are the standards, I guess, the technological literacy book.
okay. So, and that's really what the way it should be, because that's the reason why standards, why we have them and why they're good. It's so that you're not doing the same thing in 3 classes, because it's what the teacher, it's like, this is for my tech literacy class, so this is what we should be, addressing in it and learning about. So and where's Mr. Lang? Where were you at? Is that your?
That was at the over in Rapid City campus
Okay.
class this semester. He's a former high school technology teacher. I think he did some middle school technology as well. He's been retired for about 5 years now, but they brought him back for that class because it was only me and Julia Becker.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Julia Becker. We're the only 2 tech education students, so it was just us 2.
Uh-huh.
They brought him to teach that class. He did a good job because he wasn't prepared for it. I mean, they said, like, basically a couple weeks before the school year started, or the semester, they said, "Can you teach this?" And
Uh-huh.
it worked out well, but
Right. So did you get to kind of have some say in what to do then, or?
yeah, it was a lot more low key. We did, he had assignment. We did a lot of different lessons. Well, I guess 2 or 3. One was just what he called a front loading lesson or information transfer, I guess, just teach the kids about something. And then one was a process where we had to actually teach the students how to do a process. And then the last one was a module unit. We had to make a whole unit.
Mm-hmm.
That was a lot harder because it's like, I did mine was like a 10-day unit, so I had to have 10 different days set out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I learned a lot from that class.
Yeah. Well, and that's good practice too. I used to make people, when I taught middle level methods, we did a unit, and just be so that it's not about doing lessons, which is kind of, but for this class, principles and practices, like I said, okay, let's do this student-centered lesson / activity / project. I needed somewhere to start with too, but now that I'll have your ideas, it can strengthen it for the next semester, because to be honest, I would love to say, okay, create a student-centered unit, but then I think maybe that might be overwhelming to some people too. Anyway.
Like, mine's a pretty simple one compared to some of the ones I've seen on there, but that's all I really knew to do. So,
the main thing is, Trevor, and that's the whole thing behind this, it's, will you use it?
Yeah, and I will. I'll probably use it the first day I teach.
Yeah, and to me, that's all I wanted, is like, I want you to develop something that you can see yourself using once you're in the classroom. I don't want, because I don't know, I've taken classes where I've had to develop something and it's like, I'll never use this, you know?
Yeah.
And so I don't want that. I want it to be, that's why I'm, you know, people are saying, I wish I had more structure on what to develop, but that's it. It's like student-centered, something you'll use. That's all I care about, you know, so great. Well, thank you for sharing.
No problem.
Okay, Katie, how about you then?
Okay, let's see if I got this. Let's see. Okay, and share screen.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if I get this one. Okay. All right. It's not sharing, is it?
Not yet.
Oh, wait, not yet. There we go. Okay, I think.
Yeah, and I think you can even use a whiteboard or you know, or like something like that. You can draw on it, but I haven't messed with that yet.
Okay.
There we go.
There we go. All right. So I actually did, and this is recording as well. Okay. So this is more of like my general, like I actually have an actual lesson plan I wrote, but this is a more general idea for 7th grade geometry. And I stole this from a website and kind of made it my own. And it's measuring a room. For this one, it's doing flooring, like what kind of dimensions. So I'll just kind of go through this 7th grade geometry. We're doing some practical applications. The nice thing about this is there's really a lot of different points you can do this. You can incorporate Pythagorean theorem. You don't necessarily have to have it. There's surface area, there's perimeter, there's all kinds of things like that. So it's really easy to build off of or add to later. And I put a few standards in with geometric figures. So doing some of the, what's the word I want? Some of the things to scale and being able to read diagrams and scale. So this is my basic version. For starting off, just doing a rectangular room, doing the measurements, choosing a scale and just drawing, and just doing something basic on the start with like graph paper, and then picking from the materials and doing the calculations. And that's just the basic one. I can go through more with the education plans where we have the standards for the math. And all the materials that they're going to need, which I will have pencils because I know this is middle school and we don't always have pencils.
Right.
It doesn't matter whether it's May, we still haven't figured it out to bring our pencils. And tape measures. And it was actually good to go through the lesson plan because even though I don't know if I'll use it per se, it got me thinking about some stuff. I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to tell them which measurement they're going to have to use.
Right, right. We talk about that in my secondary class called Cursive Knowledge. You know, it's hard to remember what it's like to not know something, you know, once you've learned it. And so you have to always put yourself back in your student's shoes and not assume that they know the Pythagorean theorem or they know how to, you know, even how to measure, you know, how to properly do that. So,
yeah.
So this is like a more specific, so assuming for flooring, given a tape measure, so I tried to get everybody involved. So one student on one side, one student on the other side holding it, and having one check, one record the measurements. It's really hard to say exactly how I'll do because I don't know how many students I have, so I'm just kind of making up some numbers here.
Sure.
So.
But that's again, the main thing is you have to have a plan, you know.
Oh, yeah.
That way you can tweak it and go from there so it doesn't have to, as long as it's student-centered and students are involved, then you're going to have it. So, Trevor, do you have any questions?
Nope. It looks like it would be pretty good for, I mean, this could even be something I could incorporate into a technology class with the measuring and the, you know, the perimeters and the finding the area or the square footage and things. That would work well.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the things when I used to teach geometry, I did a scavenger hunt, and for, buku points, I think it was like 25 points, where the other stuff was like 5 points. Students could bring in someone from the real world, to talk about how they use geometry in their, in their job and such. And so this one girl brought in her dad, who was a construction worker, and it was funny because they don't say the Pythagorean theorem, but they always use the 6, 8, 10 rule, which if you've got the 3, 4, 5, so it was just the fact that if that if it's 6 feet and 8 feet, it's going to be, the diagonal is going to be 10 feet. So there's a lot of good.
Yes, it was interesting going through this, because then I thought, oh wait, how are they going to know it's a rectangle? And then so I thought of doing the measuring the diagonals, because I'm going to make sure it's a rectangular room. I'm starting with something basic. I'm not going to.
Yeah.
But I can add to that later if I choose to. So.
Sure.
So the opposite corner. So I'll have them do that, and I'll probably explain later why they're doing that. So.
Yeah.
And then have an area, calculate the material, because a lot of students I've worked with who don't like math, they do want to go into these fields, and it's like, why do I have to use math? I don't need math. And it's like, well, yeah,
you have to make it applied math. To me, that's, there's such a connection between what you're doing, Trevor, and right here, Katie. I mean, it's seeing the value of it and such. So anyway, well, thank you both for meeting with me, and thank you for your participation this entire semester. I hope that you learned some new things. And
I did a lot, yeah.
Good. And I hope both of you end up teaching middle school, because we need advocates for those, for adolescents. It's kind of scary that I can't remember if I told either of you, but the Department of Ed, or the legislature, it's not the Department of Ed, who they do whatever the legislature says, but there's this K-8 and then 7 through 12 endorsements, and so there are people out there. So why do we need this middle school? Why do we need to have this 5-8 like both of you are getting? And it's like, because those poor kids, they need someone that is has learned about everything that's going on.
It's different. I've subbed now. Like, I worked at high school. That was more my background. I worked as a paraprofessional, but I've been subbing both middle and high school, and there's definitely some differences. In 9th grade, they're like in between, and in 10th, 11th, 12th, they start to, like the pencils, I'm like, they don't remember their pencils. So if I teach middle school, I'm going to have a million pencils.
So, well,
I'm not going to fight them on that.
I love the one, can't remember whose inquiry-based project it was, but it had a picture of the adolescent brain, and it had all this other stuff, at the end it was like homework was about this big, remembering pencils. It's just not there. So
but they are so enthusiastic.
Yes, they are.
They don't, like, I expect them to argue with me, and they don't, and I'm like, because my background with high school, and it's like they just do it, and I'm like, I don't have to really explain why. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. Well, and always like, questions are the answer. So just say, why do you suppose I'm making you do it? Just so that they have to think about it themselves, rather than because I said so. So anyway. Yeah. Well, that's the one thing. My free meeting will end in 5 minutes. Please upgrade to paid account at $14.99 per month for unlimited minutes. But I figure 30 minutes.
You can do 30 minutes for free then? That's how it works? You can do 30 minutes for free? That's how it works?
Yeah, okay. And then what I've done in the past, like if there have been some that are long, you just stop this one and then send up a new link. It's just broken up. But heck. Yeah. It's still That's
a cool program. I think I could probably use it for some things. So.
Good. So, I'm thinking maybe next year, the first couple weeks. Well, I'm definitely going to make it that I'll send out a link every Monday. I'll see what night works best for them. And then that way, if people have questions, they can get on, and I'll just, cause I can just leave it running, and then people can pop in and out, and well, except for, I think once I start talking, then it's like my 40 minutes and such, but until that happens, I can just keep doing it. So, alrighty. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a great summer. Get out there, some camping.
I'll get my project in the Dropbox now that we met. I already have it on the discussion board.
Okay. Sounds good. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.